Hello, and welcome to the Washington Monthly. I'm your host, Ann Kim.
And I'm your co-host, Garrett Epps.
This episode is sponsored by Montclair State University, nationally ranked in Washington Monthly's College Guide as a best bang for the buck institution in the Northeast.
Montclair is a little bit of a hidden treasure, a school that I think more people need to know about because it shows what higher education can and should be.
My guest is the president of Montclair, Jonathan Coppell. Hi, Dr. Coppell. It is great to meet you.
It's great to be having this conversation, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about Montclair State University. I know that you're located just outside New York City, 10, 12 miles or so, and the photos and videos I've seen just show a really gorgeous campus with these white buildings and red roofs. But can you give us a little bit more information about the geography and the biography of the school?
So people see the pictures of our campus and they're like, well, you must be in Southern California or something like that because we've got this Spanish mission style architecture. But as you noted, we're actually in northern New Jersey. Basically about 10 miles due west of Midtown Manhattan, if that helps you picture location, and not maybe as well known to people as we should be as the second largest university in New Jersey. We're proud of the fact that we are ranked by the Washington Monthly as the top public university in New Jersey, owing to our status as really an engine of economic social mobility. So about half of our students are on track to be the first in their family to graduate from college. We are a majority minority institution. Majority of our students are from underrepresented groups, and our outcomes vastly exceed what one might project based on the demographics of our students. But what really is the important thing is to say that we are a better institution because of the profile, with outstanding outcomes from an academic point of view, highly ranked programs, national standing in multiple fields, from the performing arts to media and communications, business, life sciences, and really proving that accessibility must go hand in hand with excellence. And that's what I'm particularly proud about. You can do more things than just be accessible. And there's this, I think, unstated notion that if you're accessible, well, you must be making compromises. We're not making compromises. We are a highly accessible, but also high achieving university. We're very much committed to public service, both in terms of the university's community engagement. I hope we get a chance to talk about the ways in which we're partnering with community organizations and view our mission as making communities stronger, and at the same time encouraging public service in our students and commitment on an individual basis to the health of our democracy and the vibrancy of our local communities and the nation as a whole. So Montclair is a little bit of a hidden treasure. We're trying to change that, but a school that I think more people need to know about because it shows what higher education can and should be.
Yeah, I mean, the national conversation is often dominated by the more brand name schools, but the reality is that 90% plus of students in America are actually educated at places like Montclair State University,
Absolutely.
And the education is often just as good and a whole lot more affordable.
Absolutely, and in some ways producing more significant outcomes in terms of the contribution to the dynamism of the economy and the delivery on the promise of the American dream, that if you work hard and apply yourself, you can be put in a position to change the fortunes, not only for yourself, but for your family and your community. That's exactly right. The majority of our students are working, they're balancing family and jobs. About a third of our students live on campus. The majority do not. And so the image, as you said, of what is the college going population as defined by a handful of elite institutions is quite misleading.
Now, one of the reasons that Montclair is among the top ranked schools in the Washington Monthly's College Guide is as a best bang for the buck institution in the Northeast. So congratulations for that. And so I want to drill down a little bit on this question of affordability, because that is probably one of the biggest concerns that a lot of students and parents have. So according to the numbers that we have for you, the net price of attending Montclair is only $11,300 thereabouts, which is below the national average net price. So can you talk a little bit more about what Montclair does to offer an affordable education? And in particular, I saw on your website two really interesting programs, the Red Hawk Advantage Award and the Garden State Guarantee. So if you could also talk about what those are and how those contribute to the affordability of Montclair, that'd be great.
Sure. So first of all, I think it is important to say like that those numbers, while we're proud of them and they are, I think, better than in many cases, that's still a lift for a lot of families to figure out how to do that. And so I don't want to ever seem glib and say like, oh well, it's no big deal. It is a big deal, and it's a stretch. It's a stretch for a lot of our families, and of course, the numbers you gave are averages. Some people are in a different spot. Some people pay nothing, right? Because of the nature of financial aid. And so my view is, and this was captured well by one of the rankings, not Washington Monthly, so we won't say their name, but one of the rankings said, well, how long does it take, given the marginal benefit of a degree from the institution in the job market, to pay the debt that is associated with that degree? Which I thought that was sort of an interesting way to get at it. And it turns out that that the value of a Montclair degree means it takes you less than 2 years to pay that marginal cost, right? So
Wow.
we'll call it the $22,000 or the $21,000 in average debt. And I think that's a reasonable investment, right? The way I would think about it from financial terms is, okay, that means that you're essentially buying an annuity that's going to pay you $10,000 a year for the rest of your life. The first 2 years is going to pay back the cost of the annuity, but then you get that annuity forever. Um, that's a pretty good value, and most people would sign up. Most people would sign up for that if you were offered that as a financial instrument. The important thing to realize is that there's two components to that outcome. One is the cost, and I think that we do a good job of keeping costs down. We're proud that we have the fewest number of employees per degree in the state of New Jersey, and we try to be efficient, and we look for ways to be efficient, being mindful of our students and their families at every step of the way. But it's also the case that the degree has to have value in order for that equation to work. And so I think a lot of times people say, well, the way to make college more affordable is just to cut. We don't do that. We try to ensure that the programs are of high quality, and that the preparation for our students is such that they enter the job market in a position to do well, and to thrive. Giving somebody an inexpensive degree is not necessarily giving them a valuable degree. And so I think our approach is to ensure that the university is always operating at a level of quality that the degrees are valuable to the students. One way of measuring value, not the only way, and I will push back on that, one way of measuring value is in terms of the earnings of the graduates. And so we wouldn't compromise for purposes of saving dollars on the quality of the programs, because that's ultimately self-defeating. I can't help but take the opportunity, since you introduced the topic, and to say I'm a little bit reluctant to lean too far into the income argument, because a lot of our students are not trying to optimize their income. If you're coming here to be a teacher or a nurse or a social worker or a counselor or any number of professions, it's not because you think you're going to be a millionaire. It's because you want to be in a place to do good in the world, to have a satisfying career, yes, to take care of your family. But one of the frustrations I have about the value of a degree is determined by how much you earn conversation,
Uh,
is that it reduces, I think, our students to a very, frankly, insulting insulting set of assumptions about why they choose to go to college. And I think it's much bigger than that. Now,
mhm.
change to the other part, like what do we do to try and help make students affordable? You mentioned Garden State Guarantee. Uh, the Garden State Guarantee is a state program which ensures that people at certain income levels can attend at no cost. And so it is focused on the lower end of the financial spectrum, and that's a state program, not a Montclair program. But we wanted to complement that with our own program, and the Red Hawk Advantage gets into that, right? Which is how do you build upon those supports? First of all, extend them higher up the income ladder. One of the concerns I have about the way we do financial aid is that folks in the middle economically
Yeah,
are squeezed because they don't have access to some of the state financial aid. They don't have access to Pell, and yet they're not wealthy enough where they can so easily just
right.
write a check. And so we've tried to extend our provision of financial aid from our university resources beyond the levels of the Garden State Guarantee or Pell. And that's really what our financial aid program does, is to broaden out the population that can benefit from
Gotcha.
financial aid. Because we do recognize how difficult it is to make college affordable.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about what kinds of experiences students get to prepare themselves for the workforce. I understand what you're saying about that's not the only reason students should come to college. And you're right. I think that there has been a very transactional um, characterization of the college student relationship in a lot of ways, with a huge amount of emphasis on ROI to
Yep.
the detriment of the college experience. That being said, though, it seems as if it does seem, though, when you look on your website, that students are having incredible work-based learning experiences. And the video that's featured on your website, College Tour, talks about students, interning on Wall Street, they're working on Broadway. You guys have the best college radio station in the country,
Yeah,
things like
we're
that.
pretty
So these are just incredible experiences that will set people up as well as build the community that you're proud of.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I think most students do have in mind that college is going to set them up for professional success. I just don't think that everybody judges professional success by the size of their paycheck, right? I mean, there are a lot, but that's not to say that we don't have a lot of students that want and earn a big paycheck, but there are a lot of professions where that's not about. You mentioned Broadway. We have one of the finest performing arts colleges in the country, bar none. And our students are on Broadway, and they are in Hollywood, and they're on television, and they're fantastic dancers and musicians. Very few people in those professions, notwithstanding Taylor Swift, very few people in those professions end up billionaires, right?
Yeah.
Or millionaires. But they have very fulfilling careers, and the students are pursuing their passions, and they come to Montclair and they're set up to be successful. In part because, as you made reference, we are really focused on giving students opportunities to learn with hands-on experiences while they're still in school. So you mentioned, our award-winning radio station WMSC, but we have a variety of places like that radio station where students are learning while they're doing. So let's take an example adjacent to that. Our We just launched our School of Communications and Media as a standalone college of communications and media, and the record there of students finding employment afterwards is phenomenal. The students do incredibly well. Why? Because while they're here at Montclair, they're doing the work. We are unique in hosting our own streaming platform, right? That no other university has. We have our own Red Hawk Sports Network where every Montclair State University sporting event is covered by a crew of students producing high level broadcasts of baseball, football, but you name it. And frankly, even while they're still enrolled, our students are hired to do that professionally for other broadcasts. And I can follow that like hands on the dial of a clock to each college around the university where we're trying to create some opportunity for students to learn by doing while they're at Montclair. And that, I think, first of all, does prepare you professionally. I actually think you get more out of the classroom learning when you are using it in real time through an internship or even as an undergraduate research assistant working with our faculty who are doing incredible research. We've now emerged as an R2 research university. Our research funding has gone up. That creates learning opportunities for our students, and it puts them in a better position when they graduate. So we're gonna continue to try and improve in this regard, particularly try to level the playing field. One of the issues when you have a population like ours is it's awfully difficult for a student who's working many cases full time in order to afford to be able to go to college to then say, oh, by the way, also take an unpaid internship. Yeah, that's not going to work. And so we're trying to figure out how to not only create those learning opportunities, but have them be paid learning opportunities so that they're accessible to the full range of our student population. But that's the aspiration, is to have it be 100%. We're not quite at 100% yet, but that's also part of the design. That when you design a new program, it builds in those experiential opportunities from the outset.
And just as an FYI, the Washington Monthly offers paid internships. So if there are students at Montclair who are interested in applying, they should check out our website
We
and,
will be there. We will be
see
there.
if that's something of interest to them.
I'm glad that you do. It's on brand for you to do that.
Well, I want to ask about a different aspect of student success, and that is what the university is doing to make sure that students do, in fact, walk across the stage to collect their diplomas at the end of 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. And I saw on your site that you have several programs that are actually geared toward that, especially because you have so many first generation students coming through your doors. It seems like you have an early college program, a summer bridge program. Can you talk a little bit more about what these programs are, as well as other supports that you might offer for these
Yeah,
students?
and let me. I appreciate you calling attention to that question because, as you know, there's a lot of critical attention around higher education these days. Some of it has nothing to do with that. It's about institutions and issues. But part of it is this notion that college isn't worth it and so on, and it relates to the income point. But part of the frustration is that a lot of people go to college and never finish. And they are right to be frustrated. And I actually think you could make the argument that somebody who starts college and doesn't finish is worse off than if they never started at all, because now they've got some debt. They have a psychological burden. I failed. I didn't do. And so, from my perspective, when a student arrives at our campus and they're starting their journey, um, whether they should have started or not, once we've accepted them, it's our moral obligation to see them walk across the stage and to do what is necessary. And we can't just say, well, you need to try harder. We have to look in the mirror and say, well, what do we need to do differently in order to make sure those students succeed? So some of the things we're doing, and none of them I think are radical compared to other universities, but you alluded to some of them. So Summer Bridge, what does that mean? That means giving students the opportunity to engage and to learn how to be a college student in the summer before they start so that they're not hitting the college campus cold. Um, they get some they get some training and experience in how do you live in college, how do you take on coursework independently. For many students, this is it's a
Yeah.
big
Like,
transition.
where's the registrar's office? Things like
Well,
that.
that's it too, right? Some of the basic stuff, and even let's just take that one because that's a good one. What was that word you used? The
Oh,
registrar.
right. What is a registrar? Right.
What is a registrar? When somebody tells you go to the registrar, the what? Like we didn't have one of those at my high school. I don't even know what a registrar is. Like a bursar. What's a bursar? Right? And so part of it is just getting people comfortable with the language and the mechanics of college, and just establishing uh, this is a place where you belong. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do with all our students who maybe they've got nagging voices in the back of their head. Hey, I don't know if I can do this and so on. We're going to quiet those voices and say, no, this is where you belong. And so we start that for many students in the summer bridge program. We try to be very intentional about the support for students, particularly in their first year, but not exclusive in their first year, to create that sense of belonging. And in fact, we have wrapped a good portion of our student life programs under something we call the Office of Student Belonging, because we think that that's a major hurdle that many students have to overcome. We try to also monitor very carefully how students are progressing on their journey, so that if they are running into hurdles or even a little hiccup, we identify that early. We intervene, and try and help them, not waiting for things to go completely off the rails, when sometimes it can be too late. So I think it's that attentiveness to understanding where are the places that students get hung up, what are the pitfalls, and then taking some of the stuff out that we put in place, requiring 17 signatures to get this, that, and the other, prerequisites that really aren't necessary, scheduling classes in such a way that we make it difficult for students to be able to get to the classes or move between classes. There are a lot of things we can do uh, to remove these sort of unintended obstacles, um, to student success.
I want to go back now to something you said early on in this conversation about how Montclair is not just a public university, but a public serving university, and your role in the community and community engagement and service. So, can you talk a little bit more about that? And in particular, I was really intrigued by something else that came across your website, which is new, which is the Interdisciplinary School for Social Transformation. And that sounds like something that's very much within this broader mission as well. So, if you could talk about that within the context of the service mission.
Yeah. So I think that I say we're a public serving university as a way of differentiating from people who use the term public university. When people say public university, what they usually mean by that is you get some portion of your budget from the state, which we do. Unfortunately, as a percentage of the total budget, it goes down every year, but we're very grateful for the people's investment in the university. But frankly, our publicness is more about our mission than our budget. And I consider our mission to serve the public interest. And certainly we do that in the ways that we already talked about, by making education accessible to a population that's representative of the whole state. But I believe universities can do much more. We have thousands of smart, energetic, passionate people, students who are eager to serve and to apply the things that they're learning in the classroom, faculty who are doing cutting edge research and are knowledgeable about many of the challenges that our society faces, and a staff that creates centers and programs that have capacity to engage the world. And if you just torqued all of those things a little bit and pointed them outwards, you can have a massive impact in the community. Now you got to do it right. It can't be that you waltz into the neighborhood and say, "We have all the answers. We know what to do." you have to be humble and a good partner, which means listening to the community, asking them what they want, asking them how we can be supportive, not bigfooting all over the place and saying, we're in charge. But if you build those partnerships, you can do phenomenal things. So I'm very excited about, for example, our work in Paterson, which is an unappreciated or underappreciated city here in northern New Jersey. Remarkable history. We've set up the 1 Square Mile program there, which is about trying to catalyze transformation in a distinct geography in a tough community. But I think that by concentrating our effort there and dealing with things like public health, economic stability, financial literacy, quality of schools, and the community has said the biggest issue is housing. I think we can have a big effect. Every program around the university, you can find ways in which we're serving the community. We have a unique partnership with the Montclair Department of Public Health, which is linked together with our school of public health. Our business students are out there doing all kinds of interesting things, working with small businesses, helping residents do their tax returns. Our science students are out there with community, measuring water quality, looking for algae blooms and other disruptors to safe drinking waters. Again, I can go around. Our education programs are creating pipelines of teachers where they're connected to the community. Something like Red Hawks Rising, which is a signature program in Newark, which is having a huge effect on schools there. You can orient a university around the needs and aspirations of your community. And here's the great part. Each of those programs creates learning opportunities for our students, right? So go back to what we were talking about before, hands-on learning. Every one of those things created a hands-on learning opportunity and opportunities for faculty to do research on the interventions that we are running to say, how do we learn from these experiments with our partners about what works and what doesn't? So not
Hmm.
only is it consistent with our public serving mission, but if you do it right, it's consistent with and advances our educational mission and our research mission. And so that's what we try to build, this virtuous circle of activity that really helps us achieve all of our goals simultaneously. And I hope that we catalyze a broader movement. We're not the only university that's doing this, but I think all universities should embrace this idea. And frankly, I think that the more higher education does that, the more positive the feeling will be about our industry, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
generally. So I think that this is an important thing for all universities to take on, but it's core to our our institutional profile. I don't think you could imagine Montclair State University that didn't take on this approach.
A final question for you. We're heading into your college admissions season. So what is your advice for students who want to apply to Montclair? How should students manage their applications so that they're most likely to get in? What are your tips?
I think students should just be very upfront about who they are, right? I think that there's a lot of overthinking in the college application process of how do I frame this, that, or the other thing. We're very, I think, open-minded institution. What we want is to identify students who are capable of doing college level work. Um, and our belief is if you are capable of doing college level work, then it's our job to help you find your way and to figure out the path that makes sense. And if you run into a few pitfalls, our job is to help you get through them. So I think when I've talked to students about why they chose to come to Montclair, and they're all moving in. So I've had this conversation. I've had this conversation a lot in the last few days. I always ask students, "Hey, how come you chose Montclair? Like, why was this the school that you wanted?" They said it just felt right. It just seemed like a welcoming place. It seemed like the students who come here do well, and they feel good about what they got from their time at Montclair, and I just knew that's where I was supposed. I just knew that's where I was supposed to be. And I think students should have that feeling, like when they're looking at schools, they should be like, I can see myself there. I can imagine participating in the programs. I can imagine being part of this community, and the students here are terrific and welcoming to new students. I really do. I really do. Every president says this, but the students are the best part. They're phenomenal, and so I think students should say, uh, is that a place where I can be myself, and figure out who I want to be, and I think that this is that kind of place for a lot of students. Maybe not everybody, but that's my recommendation. Is just look for that fit, and I will say I've been impressed in my time. Many students are really good at finding what they need, and a lot of students have said, you talked about the value of the degree and the bang for the buck, I think was the phrase you used. A lot of students have come and looked at Montclair and said, I've looked at Montclair and other colleges that maybe cost more or a little bit more la-di-da, and they're like, but I think I can get more from the programs at Montclair. Like, the students have better internships, the classes are smaller, the opportunities are more, the alumni seem to do better, and so I think I think it's better, and I'm really impressed. Like, most of us have a hard time looking past brand and so on and so forth, and so I think students who dig a little bit, they find this university in particular, depending on what their interest is, and they're like, yeah, that makes more sense. I think that's very impressive. I would encourage students to do that same digging. Maybe that doesn't lead them to Montclair State University, but if they do that digging, they'll maybe find the right place for them. And as I say, I'm impressed by the students who do that, because they really get good results for themselves.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Capel, for this opportunity to learn more about Montclair. Take care. This week's podcast is sponsored by Montclair State University. Located just 12 miles from New York City, Montclair State University is a public research university that's helping students get from where they are now to where they want to be. Nationally ranked for social mobility and Washington Monthly's #1 public institution in New Jersey, Montclair is the state's premier public service institution. Learn more about what makes Montclair a university on the rise at montclair.edu. That's it for this week from the Washington Monthly. I'm Ann Kim, and on behalf of my co-host, Garrett Epps, thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe to our channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a wonderful week.